Hello, we're here at Bott Radio Network with the pro-life candidate for mayor of Overland Park, Charlotte O'Hara. So Charlotte is going to tell us about her race, why she's running for Overland Park mayor, and what is important for the citizens of Overland Park to understand about why they need to get out and vote on November 7th for Charlotte O'Hara for Overland Park mayor.
Lisa, thank you so much. Well, it's been a long journey. I really did not have this on my radar to run for mayor of Overland Park, but I was at a public hearing back in December, and it was so disturbing to see how the mayor and the city council really slapped down the public prior to a public hearing, giving them a whole long list of thou shall nots. And I was just appalled. And immediately I thought, oh my gosh, somebody has to run against the current mayor. And then I did the research after that meeting into the issue of corporate welfare, and I was appalled. I was appalled at the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that our city council is handing out to big corporations and big developers. In fact, in one section of 135th Street, which is Gold Coast,
What do you mean say Gold Coast? What do you mean by that?
Gold Coast means that is where people are making a lot of money. Land goes for a tremendous amount. My background is the construction industry. I had a residential contracting company, and I did a little developing. So this is my world. And on the Gold Coast of 135th Street, between Knoll and Metcalf, 1 mile, there are $178 million worth of tax incentives going from our public tax dollars into the pockets of big corporations and big developers.
Now, how does that, for the average homeowner, how does that affect them?
Well, these tax incentives, a lot of them are economic development revenue bonds, and those are property tax abatements. And as you give money away to the big corporations and developers, that is transferring the burden of taxes onto existing businesses and the residents. So that's why your property taxes have gone, the rate in Overland Park has gone from 7.65 mils up to 13.8, nearly doubling since 2003.
So when you say mills, what does that mean exactly?
That's just the property tax rate. The property tax rate has nearly doubled since 2003, and transferring that burden of services that our city provides from the big boys to the existing businesses and residents of Overland Park. It's absolutely astounding. And the excuse is, well, everybody else is doing that. Who hasn't heard that from their teenage kids? Everybody else is doing it. I don't care if everyone else is doing it. And that's my response. That's not the issue here. Prior to 1996, Overland Park never gave any tax incentives away. We were a prosperous, growing city then, and as we have accelerated giving away this corporate welfare, our services have diminished and our taxes have gone up. Now we have chip and seal streets instead of asphalt. And I was raised on a gravel road, and I really don't need the gravel in the city. Cost-cutting mechanism that they've put in place. The other thing is how they use our tax dollars. Definitely we need to be focusing more on the older parts of Overland Park, on the infrastructure. Instead, we're spending $10 million, I call it the bridge to nowhere, on Quivira Road south of 179th Street. Again, south of 179th Street. Yes.
And so it goes from 50s. What's the furthest north?
47th. It goes from County Line Road to 207th. I don't believe it goes clear to 215th yet, but yes, they and you talk.
How does it get to be expanded? What's the process for? Has the boundaries of Overland Park changed since it became a city?
Oh my goodness, yes.
How does that work? How does that process work?
Well, unfortunately, this has, especially in the south part of the city, this was done through forced annexation. They forced people into the city of Overland Park over their protests. They absolutely wanted no part of being in the city. They were quite satisfied with county services, but the city, through state law, was able to do forced annexation. Fortunately, and I believe that was in 2012 when I was in the House of Representatives, we actually rectified that problem, and there no longer can be forced annexation.
Oh, so they didn't allow the people that lived in the that were under county jurisdiction to vote whether or not they wanted to join Overland Park? That was not possible?
No, absolutely. There were protests, there were meetings, people, lawyers were hired. I mean, people spent a lot of money not to be annexed into Overland Park, but ultimately they were annexed.
How did that affect the homeowners that were forced to join Overland Park? Were they paying less in property taxes, more in property taxes? Were they getting better services, water, and all that other stuff?
Absolutely, they are not getting better services. But they got increase in property tax, and also their rights to use their property. I was at a city council meeting where there was residents that wanted to have chickens at 191st Street. They'd always had chickens.
Thunk it?
Yeah. They'd always had chickens. They have a chicken coop in their backyard, for goodness sakes. But because they were, I think the cutoff was 3 acres. I think that they were less than 3 acres. They had to come to the city council and beg for a special use permit. And there was a lot of rhetoric on the council saying, oh, we shouldn't allow chickens in Overland Park. It's like, are you kidding me? These people want to have fresh eggs.
So wait a minute. So they go out and they force annex these farms and these rural areas to become part of Overland Park. And then they say, oh, and by the way, you can't keep any of your farm animals or any of the livestock that you've got.
If it's under a certain acreage.
If it's under a certain acreage.
Yes.
Oh, I know. Well, one of the things I thought was really strange when I first moved into Overland Park is that you're only allowed to have 1 dog and 1 cat. Did you know that little rule? 1 dog, 1 cat. Is the legal limit for, I mean, talk about micromanaging. I mean, I feel like in the Soviet Union or something. Tell me a little bit more about, you're running for mayor of Overland Park. Why is the current mayor still there after so many years? Is there no term limits? What's the situation with that?
Term limits are not in place in Overland Park. So he has been mayor since 2005. He's been on the council since 1996. So he's been involved on the council for more than 20 years. And it's just the good old boys. And that's how these hundreds of millions of dollars of tax incentives end up in the pockets of big developers.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Exactly, exactly. And all you have to do is go out to the election office and look at the campaign reports, and you will see a number of developers, builders, home builders association, et cetera. The people that are benefiting from these big tax incentives and abatements are the ones that are contributing.
Oh, that's and then they of course have these elections like this year, 2017, in an off-year election. So most people are inspired to go and vote during the regular even-yeared elections.
Right, and this is a real problem. I've been walking since March, and I have knocked on now 2,800 doors.
Wow.
And on my walking list, it tells me who has voted in the last 3 primaries. These are very frequent voters that I'm talking to, and who has voted in the municipal election. And it's just astounding how our pro-life community is obviously not voting in municipal elections. Conservatives are not voting in municipal elections. The last municipal election turnout in 2013 for the mayor's race was 7.98%.
Oh wow! So all they have to do in order to keep coming back, they don't have term limits, and all they have to do is get their friends and buddies to go out and vote for them, and voila! And plus, have these incumbents had any opposition?
Absolutely not. Our current mayor had a contested race his first term, so that would be in 2005. But since then,
12 years ago. 12 years ago. It was the only time he's ever had an opposition. That was when he first got the job.
Who in the world would stand in front of this charging freight train with the establishment at the wheel, I mean, who would dare stand up to them? And that's what I was thinking while I was sitting in this public hearing, which was for the Brookridge development, which the developer is requesting, get this, $543 million in incentives and abatements.
No way.
Yeah, $543 million.
And this is going to go where?
103rd and Antioch, and this is a $1.8 billion project. So basically, the developer and the city council has already approved a star bond district. That's where almost all of the sales tax goes back to the developer for up to 20 years. Tax increment finance, the increase in the property tax, up to 90% of it goes back to the developer for up to 20 years. It's very simple. The increase in the property taxes does not go into the public coffers. It doesn't go to the schools. It doesn't go to the city. It doesn't go to the county. It doesn't go to the state. It goes into the pocket of the developer. This developer is requesting that the public pay nearly 1/3 of the cost of his development. Nice. And so that's and watching the city council be so tyrannical towards the people that were just wanting to speak at the public hearing, saying, "I don't want this in my backyard." And oh, by the way, the apartments that are going to be built there, the code has been changed, and now it's all wood construction. Those apartments are, as the industry describes it, stick built. Stick built. I mean, this is such a fire hazard, and I really did not realize it until the city place fire. This is
now. Where's the city place fire? Was that the one that was over near here that we saw the big
college,
smoke and
College Boulevard? That was devastating to the community. That was devastating. I mean, we are so lucky that no one was killed. I can't tell you how many duplexes
was that a stick built one?
Oh, absolutely.
It was an all-wood building,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
And how many units were lost in it?
Oh, I have no idea. It was a big building. But yes, and because it's so close, it was built so close to these other residents, it was like Armageddon. It was really bad. We are so lucky that no one was killed. It was a horrible fire. And people say, oh, well, this is just an anomaly. And I beg to differ, because since the code has been changed, and I believe that was in 2009, all across the country, there have been 37 major fires in those types of structures. And in that 1 month of City Place fire, there were 3.
Oh, my God.
And this is all across the country. Yes, and this just is because the wood industry had a big lobby in Washington, and they were able to get the International Building Code changed. But you have to understand that individual cities have to adopt these codes. Overland Park didn't have to adopt that part. You can pick and choose what you want to adopt. So basically, they've caved into the big moneyed interests once again. And like I said, I'm from the construction industry. This is insane. Prior to this, anything over 2.5 stories, my understanding was they had to have metal studs and concrete floors. Not anymore. So what they are depending on is to keep our residents safe that are living in these apartments, sheetrock and sprinkler systems. That's it.
Wow, that is scary. Why is it important for the citizens of Overland Park to be concerned about voting in this city election? And how does the Overland Park Mayor work with the city council, just because a lot of people aren't informed on how this impacts their lives?
Well, it's easy how it impacts your life. Your property tax rate has nearly doubled since 2003, so it is costing, their policies are costing you, the individual resident, enormous amount of money. That by increasing taxes. And then our services have diminished, like I was talking about. Instead of asphalt streets, now we have chip and seal. And that's just one example.
Once you win and you're the mayor of Overland Park, how important is it that you have city council members that are going to see eye to eye with your perspective?
It's very important, because there are 2 city council members per ward, so there's a total of 12 city council members. And we have Debbie Taylor, who's running for Ward 3, and we have...
and let's talk a little bit about Debbie Taylor. Who was Debbie Taylor?
Debbie Taylor owns Revival Furniture, And she had a very trying experience with the city of Overland Park in that she was building a new building because she was kicked out of Loman's Plaza, which is being financed in large part by corporate welfare. And so she was forced out, and she decided to build her building. Well, in December, she had to vacate, and the city gave her permission to put her furniture in her store. But then, and she was thinking that she was very close to getting a temporary occupancy permit so she could open her store. It took her 5 months. It nearly bankrupted her. Coming from the construction industry, I've never seen anything like this. They would give her one list, and she would comply with that. Then they would give her another list. No idea. I just have never seen anything like this. And how the city dealt with her nearly bankrupted a small business. And, oh, by the way, when she built, she had someone go in and ask the city, well, are there any tax incentives for small businesses? Oh, no. None.
None?
None. No, the smallest project that I've seen is $18 million. So that's a very high threshold.
Wow.
And I want people to understand, I own industrial buildings. I've used an IRB, an industrial revenue bond. I know how this process works. And it is such bad public policy. But I am telling people that we do not, in Overland Park, there is no reason for us to be handing out these hundreds of millions of dollars because these companies want to do business here. And San Jose has now announced that they are no longer in the incentive game. And this is a Democrat mayor. I was absolutely astounded to read his statements, but he said, it's the quality of life that these corporations are looking for, and that they decide where they want to locate, and then they play the communities against each other to see how much they can get. They already knew where they were going to locate.
Oh, wow.
And,
that's
yeah,
an interesting sideline to
yeah,
that.
it is. And so San Jose says, no, we're done. And we are not going to bid for Amazon. Amazon already knows where they're going. And by the way, speaking of Amazon, out in Edgerton, our little community out in southwest Johnson County, they have an Amazon distribution warehouse there, 800,000 square feet. 800,000 square feet.
Wow, that's huge.
That's huge. And they have a 93% property tax abatement. It's 21 cents a square foot.
Oh.
So it's fixed for 3 years. Reappraisal
Goodies.
Reappraisal will not touch them for 10 years.
Oh, my goodness. So no tax money received by Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the country now.
Yes.
Coming into Kansas.
Right. They will only pay 7% of their property tax bill.
Debbie
Yes.
Taylor is the owner of
Revival Furniture.
So
And
if you've ever bought Revival Furniture, on Medcalf for a lot of years, great gal. I interviewed her. I'm going to try to put a link to her interview
Yes,
underneath
and she's
this.
now on Santa Fe.
For the people that live in Overland Park, you need to know where her district is.
Ward 3.
People don't understand what wards are. They need to know streets and areas.
Ward 3 basically is from 119th up to 95th Street.
Okay.
Approximately. There's some jigs and jags.
I'm so proud of this woman. She recruited these candidates to
No,
run.
no.
Didn't you? You didn't?
Now, Debbie, I did encourage her to run. I encouraged Debbie to run. Gina Burke, I did not know Gina Burke.
Really?
No. I mean, this is such an interesting...
But you're supportive of
Oh,
Gina Burke.
absolutely. This is so interesting is because the day before the filing deadline, June the 1st, I received a email from Gina that would have been on the 31st, and it said, help, I'm running for city council, and they're trying to talk me out of it. I'm going... And then in the body of the email, she was talking about how her opponent, Terry Goodman, was harassing her with all of these text messages, demanding a meeting. I told her not to meet with him, but she went ahead and met with him. And basically they said that she was too young, she's 34, too inexperienced, and that she should stay home and watch her kids.
Oh, barefoot and pregnant. Sounds like the ultimate male chauvinist.
Yes, and that, she absolutely was unqualified. This woman has a degree in chemistry and an MBA with a focus on finance.
Oh my, perfect. Sounds perfect. Okay, it's Gina Burke.
Gina Burke. She's in
So and
Ward
now what?
4.
Now tell me the street. So we need
That
streets.
is basically from 151st up to 119th, except there's a big section out from 69 Highway over to Schweitzer from 151st to 135th. That's in Ward 6.
You may not know which district you're in, but you probably have seen the name of the person that's been there for all these years. So Debbie Taylor is going to be running against, replacing who?
Jim Kite.
So if you've had Jim Kite on your ballot, you do not want to vote for him. You
Right.
want to vote for
And I
Debbie Taylor. And if you have,
I want to mention something about Jim Kite because he is endorsed by KFL. However, I was talking to some people who had his sign in their yard, and he is endorsing the entire incumbent slate from the mayor on down, and those all are endorsed by Mainstream Coalition.
And what's Mainstream Coalition?
A very pro-abort organization.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
So I just there's good reason to vote against Jim, and Debbie did fill out the KFL questionnaire. I don't know, I wasn't privy to her answers, but she definitely is not pro-abort.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. She's a great gal.
She is a wonderful
If you've ever
woman.
gone into Revival Furniture, you know this. She's a wonderful business owner, just the type of business owner, community person who's been invested in Overland Park for years. So Debbie Taylor, do not vote for Kite.
Jim Kite.
Jim Kite. And now, who's Gina Burke going to be replacing?
Terry Goodman. And it's been all in the newspapers and all over the airwaves about his bullying Gina and trying to force her to withdraw, even to the point of promising her a seat on like the planning commission.
Isn't that interesting? That sounds like
And there were
collusion or something.
And there were
I've heard
two,
about that in the news recently.
and there were two other council members that were in on the bullying, and that was Spears and Dan Stock.
So if you have anybody, just check it out. If they've been in there before, if they're the incumbent and there's somebody running against them, do not vote for the incumbent. Vote for the challenger. But
And then Ward 6.
Ward 6
is David Whitaker.
And that's what area?
That is
that
100.
chunk that comes into part of
yes, right. From 69 Highway over to Schweitzer, 151st to 135th. That is in Whitaker's Ward 6, and then south of 150.
And who's Whitaker running against?
He is running against Newland. This is an open seat.
Oh, this is an open seat. Who used to been there? That's the important thing because people
Dan
remember.
Stock used to be there.
So if you used to have Dan Stock on your ballot, do not vote for him. Vote for Whitaker. Okay.
Yes, David Whitaker, and he is as Gina and David both are endorsed by Kansans for Life.
Great. Okay, now where do we go? We have at least one other one, don't we? That you're supporting?
No, that's
so there's Whitaker.
Oh, yes, Ward 2. Mm-hmm. Channing Wolf.
Yes, I knew there was another one.
Forgot. Channing runs from basically 87th Street to 95th Street, and then there's a little bit on both east and west that goes south of 195th.
Help them understand if they had this other guy on there.
Yes, Kirk Skoog. Skoog is a bigwig with Mid-America Regional Council. If you're interested in Agenda 21, that is the pipeline.
Oh, so he's big into Agenda 21. Then you need to vote for this lovely lady, Charlotte O'Hara.
For mayor.
For mayor.
And just to tell people, get out and vote because the conservatives don't vote.
And so vote for anybody who's not an incumbent. Do not vote for an incumbent. Thank you very much. We've been here at Bott Radio Network. Have a very blessed day.